Good morning. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Cynthia Harrison here from Rhombus Healing Arts and Temple Time. We are do a bit of a Q&A today. So just getting myself prepared. And while we wait for some people to come on, there we go. All right. So why am I here? Why are you here? Let's do a little chime, give some time for people to come on. We're going to do a little bit of temple time, which is Q&A, but I'm going to go into some questions that people asked me. We had a 2-day Relevate challenge yesterday, Regulate to Elevate, and some questions have come in and they're relevant to a lot of people. So if you've got some questions, you can also put them in. I'll either answer them today or through the week. I will be here about this time through this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday I will not be. I have some training on Friday. But take a breath and let's just call the people in, especially the people who asked the questions. So take a breath. And just coming into your physical body. What's going on for you today? Consciously coming back to the physical. And notice if you've been far off, if you've moved away from your body. Breathe. Coming back, ready for a little bit of temple time. Now your body is your temple, right? Your body is your temple. Where are you? How are you? What's going on for you? Let me just see who's here. Who is here? I can't see who you are yet, but I can see that people are there. Alrighty, temple time. So Relevate is regulate to elevate, regulating your systems, bringing you back into full conscious connection with your body. We had a 2-day challenge yesterday, which was awesome. And I wanted to continue that because there were experiences that happened that will be relevant for many of you that maybe weren't on the challenge. So let me know if you were. And I'm going to be juggling a bit because I've got Restream here, so I want to be able to see. I want to be able to see your comments, but for all right, I can't get in there. All right, that's cool. We're on Zoom, and I can see you in Rhombus, right? So Rhombus Healing Arts. So anywhere else that you're watching at this point, you can make comments. I'll see them later. If you want to be live with me, come over to the Zoom and put them in the Rhombus Healing Arts. So I'm not going to spend time on that. If things don't work, you just move on, right? But I do want to talk to you. I want to have a conversation with you. I want to see how you are and what's going on and answer your questions. Actually, I can get Spirit Whisperer on here as well. So one of the questions that came up in this morning, actually, or very late last night, was when we were in session, when we were in the challenge or the experiential workshop, one of the ladies who has been in the community for a while, well, both of the ladies who were in the community for a while, one was having an experience, and in the break I tapped in to support her to move that through. And there was a lot of emotion on it. There was a lot of sensations, right? And because many people who are called to either my pages or the work or whatnot are empaths or sensitives or highly sensitive people, or have their own trauma. Now, there's like 45% of you, right? And there's like 55% of you that are securely attached. So the rest of us have fear around certain things we may be unconscious about. So that was what we touched into yesterday. How many of you have dysregulated emotion, or you get scattered, or you are working towards something you really want and you start to behave in ways that make it even more difficult or even sabotage the success of that? How many of you are drawn into relationships that seem to be the same relationship over and over again? How many of you are terrified of having a relationship, maybe because of the past relationships you've had? How many of you don't know how to have a relationship because what you were modeled by your parents was something that you just don't want to experience? I could go on and on and on, but our fear comes in, and we feel it in our nervous system. We feel it in our body through our nervous system. We feel it through our body and nervous system through our energy systems. And so we have different programs to target different aspects. And so I'm just going to drop this and then we'll move on to some questions. But some of you may be thinking, like, where do I go? What do I do? Who do I talk to about all of these things and more? Like, what am I scared of? I sent out an email yesterday. Let me just touch on this email if I can find it, because these are some of the questions I was asking. I'm saying, you know, how is your health? Do you have pain and discomfort, aches, and, you know, you're not moving through your illness well, right? Do you have inflammation? You can't get where you want to go. You feel tethered to the past. You have intrusive emotions or thoughts. You're feeling reactional or even rigid, but you don't know how to let go to let people in. You can't get intimacy because of that rigidity, right? And I touched on the relationship. You're unable to be in a relationship for long or very well. Your relationships have a lot of turmoil. And maybe, like I said, you're frightened of relationships because of that or because of what you've seen. You might have fear and vulnerability, not sure what to do next. Or share with me, if you're on the Zoom, you can put it privately in the chat. But if you're on some of the others, share with me, or share what you see out in the world, the fears that are out in the world.
we tend to move away from our fear when the healing comes from moving and having a relationship with it. So the question that I'm going to answer today, and there may be others, I can't see your questions yet. Oh, Vicky. Hey, Vicky. So if you have questions, put them in, but I'm going to get one more page up so that I can and I'm hoping that you can still hear me through this AirPod. Okay. I'm going to get Spirit Whisperer Facebook group up as well so that I can see your comments. So if you're in there, but if you did get my email, come on to the Zoom so that like we can be in relationship, because it is in that relationship that you move this. You can't will it away. You can't speak it away. You know, it's not necessarily trauma, but it's information stuck in the system. Okay, so I have Spirit Whisperer of Facebook up here too. Okay, I have to turn you all down. All right, so if you are watching in Rumpus Healing Arts or Spirit Whisperer Facebook page, I can see your questions or on the Zoom. So when we get charge in our body or the experience, which may traumatize some people or may shock or stress others, there's a difference. Stress isn't trauma. Shock isn't trauma, but you can go into that. It's how your system is able to navigate the information coming in, right? Now, the information coming in and how you navigate that is dependent on a few things, but in the main, how you were wired, how you were encoded as an infant, right? How you relate. I gave the example yesterday, I'll share it again, of the anxious father, and it could be a mother. I'm just going to use father because maybe the mother has, you know, more of the bonding or attachment. Sometimes fathers leave it to the mother, right? So we've got this man who's really anxious and he's feeding his infant. And the anxiety that he feels, the child feels. And as he's feeding that child the bottle, you know, the child then is associating, wiring anxiety or the felt sense of fear with feeding. And so just as an example, it's a generalization, right? It's just an example of how we encode memory, implicit memory. We're not conscious of it. It's encoded, right? So later on, when that person grows up and they're in their, you know, even early childhood or teenage or even into their 50s, and they're eating and they feel anxious when they're feeding because the wiring happened of the fear with the drinking or the feeding. So how does that play out? That's one type of attachment or encoding. We're encoded by our you know, our whole family and our culture. So when you go to another country, and speaking to a client the other day, and her son is marrying someone from a completely different way of being in the world culture. And I just reminded her of some of the difficulties and how she can support them to be more conscious in their communication, because we just think, oh, okay, you know, people are people everywhere, which they are. We're human beings, and we have different ways of meaning making. And unless we understand, we truly understand what the other is saying, there will be miscommunication. Miscommunication can bring up or prime or trigger, you know, or frame the fear of the past or the fear that's held in your body. Same thing. It's a charge that's still in your systems. So people say to me all the time, I mean, I heard it last night, somebody close to me saying, you know, we can heal by being aware of it, right? Like, oh, okay, I have a fear of sharks, for instance, or whatever it might be. And you're aware, okay, or I have a fear of relationships. Like every time I go to have a relationship, there's such a charge in my body that it's overwhelming and I can't move forward. You can't think that away. I'm sorry, but you can't think it away. That charge, that it's charge in your electrical system, it's charge. It's held in your body and your energetics, and it needs to be released. And how we release it, we have to go to it. And we don't go to it in a way that re-traumatizes, right? How we go through the Relevate program is exactly what I'm talking about. So you have a safe, secure container, a small group where we touch in to what's going on for the body, and you experience it in your way. And I'm there to coach and mentor you, right? To make sure that you're not going and going too far and re-traumatizing, right? So I'm so excited I'm passionate about this work, and I'm excited to start this next 6 months, which starts in February. So if you're interested in anything that I've said, I'll put a link in here. And I've also got some calls open for those of you that were on the challenge and you've got questions. If you're not here, maybe you'll come tomorrow or maybe you'll email me or message me, but I'm going to put some call links out so that you can have a call with me and ask me whatever you need to know about the programs, but also maybe something came up for you and it's not a session time, it's an inquiry. Do you have an inquiry? Okay. If you've got other questions, you can bring them here through the week. Hey, Lisa, you can bring them here through the week. So I'm going to get into a question and a small little teaching of what one of my, I guess, a lady from the community, a dear soul from the community who, through her questions, often sparks some awesome insight that I can share with others. So before we go any further, what I want to do is put the links in there. So I'll just give you a moment to contemplate what I've just said. And I'm going to put the links in the chat on Spirit Whisperer and Rumbus Healing Arts. Okay. And I've emailed those that came to the challenge, so you'll have those links too. Okay. All right. So what we're talking about, I'll multitask. what I'm talking about is touching into your fear. And I taught yesterday that it's not the fear that's the problem. It's the fear of the fear. People are scared to go into what's going on for them. And I understand that because, often, okay, so I just put the link into those two. So one is for the 15-minute call, 15, 20 minute, like if you've got a question about the programs and whatnot. And the other one is for the offers. Those of you that were on the challenge, you got the coupon codes. But if you're interested and you want to know more about the codes and the special offers, you can make a call. So let's get into it, because I feel like this will be really expansive for some of you, and maybe even frightening, or you have fear about it for others, right? So I have my whiteboard here. We'll see if we go into. So the question was, when we were in the class, the workshop yesterday, the experiential, one of the ladies was having a lot of emotion come up from what's going on in her current life, right? So when we were on the break, because I know her well, I touched into it. I helped her go into it more, which brought up more, right? It created the charge, a greater charge in her system, so that she could connect with it. And so to see that might have been distressing for some people. And for other people, it may have been distressing because they may have felt it in the field. Okay? And so this is why this is important. We teach how to stay earthed and grounded. They're different. And how to be centered in your body, so that when you feel, it's not about not feeling and experiencing it in your system. It's not about that. If you're running away from your felt sense, or your dormant sensory system is activated, because if you work with me, it will be activated. You will evolve. I've worked with thousands of people. They start to be able to hear, see, sense, know, taste, smell, touch, and they heal. So it's not about that not happening. It's about how you be with that and it not impact you positively or negatively. Hear me, positively or negatively, because that's the polarity. It's so that you experience life regardless of what it is, because it just is. So when you're experiencing somebody else in emotional pain, you feel it. I feel everything. I feel everything. When you come onto these calls, I feel you. And then I let it blow through, just like the wind, or just looking at the clouds as the cloud. And sometimes the clouds move slower than other days. But if my energy and my own trauma and attachment charge has been dealt with, I don't re-experience it in the same way, because it's not in me in the same way. Does that make sense? So if you hear this today and there's questions, please come on tomorrow and let's have a conversation. Because for some of you, this is key. For many of you, this is key, right? For human beings, it's key, because you will feel. You have a nervous system, a physical and an energetic nervous system. So Relevate programs primarily about the physical body and how you inhabit it, how you understand and translate the information of its immense intelligence right? You get your own information from your body and your system, and you move it through. So you don't have to spend the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years not being able to move on what you desire, what your soul desires to experience. Your body, your vessel is not equipped. So you hold back. Are you hearing me? Are you feeling me? We're not mucking around. We're not playing around. This is the business. You want to move forward with your life in any of the areas that I've mentioned, because this held in your systems will hold you back in every area of your life, because the fear, you'll see the fear lens in everything that you look at, rather than experiencing it, not by yourself, right? You're being held in the container, but you're being held by me. I'm experienced. I say I've not lost a person yet, right? So that you can touch in and get that information and discharge it. Now, the interesting thing that just came in then was that to heal a wound, a physical wound, we need to ramp up the charge. Did you know that? So the voltage, let's say, of your body is a particular level. And when it's injured, it drops in voltage. To heal, we need to ramp the voltage up. I did a class on this not long ago. I think it's still in the archives. I think it's called Voltage or something like that. I talked about it. So you can go back in Rhombus Healing Arts or YouTube and find it. But what I'm talking about here, it's sort of similar. It's just dropped in. It's like, oh, there's all this charge in the body because it's getting ready to heal you, but it gets stuck. And too much energy or not enough energy is a problem. Too much information or not enough information is one of the classifications of trauma. Too much too fast or not enough is really slow. Okay? It's the same in the energy systems. So interesting. I nerd out about this stuff, I'm telling you. Who's with me? Who's nerding out on this, right? So why do I teach this and in conjunction with the energetics? Because we are a human being. We are energy, the physical and the energy and the soul and the spirit. So to be a full, complete, resourced human, we need to understand how we work. We come into this world. Did you have a little, a back pocket sewn onto your bottom? Because I didn't. I didn't come with a rule book. I don't know who did. Maybe back in the day they did, but I'm checking my butt right now. There's no pockets. I don't have a rule book. So how did my mother know how to parent from her mother? But what if there was a disruption in that parenting? Or what if the parents died? Then who were you brought up by? What was the understanding, the beliefs and conditioning of the family that you grew up in? And right, when I ask you, how do you know something? It's the most awesome reflection to just look at one piece and how do you know that? Did somebody tell you? Or do you just know? And there is a Claire, where you just know. But most of the time it's from the encoding, and you're unaware of it. And when you become aware of it, right, through that felt sense in your system, you can connect the memories. So yesterday I talked about the hippocampus. It's part of the brain that one of its jobs is to integrate different aspects of memory. So the implicit, which is the encoding, the explicit, one part of the explicit memory is the factual information, but another part of that memory is autobiographical, which is where you put yourself in the picture. Interestingly enough, and this is review for some of you that were there yesterday, when we have a stress response and there's the cascade of adrenaline and cortisol, to name a few, the hippocampus will shut down, will not be able to integrate those memories together for a certain amount of time, right? The adrenaline impacts it. So the hippocampus is part of the limbic system. And back in the day, I used to teach that the limbic system was the fire alarm. It's like it goes off, starts going off, right? But the hippocampus is the part where those three parts of the memory are integrated to give you where you are in that memory. And when that's, and this is real generalized because it's, it's a much bigger teaching, but just to get you thinking, okay, what's she talking about? A little bit of the context is, so when we're stressed and that hippocampus is impacted and can't bring all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle so that when you have that memory, you see the whole jigsaw puzzle and you're in it. That's why was one of the reasons why in post-traumatic stress or complex relational trauma, we have flashbacks. And the reason, a flashback is where you experience something in real time. You're not acknowledging that it's a memory. It's happening right now. So, we saw this in combat veterans, way back. I'm fascinated. When I was younger, I wanted to be a combat artist. And I went around everywhere I went around the world. But when I was younger, to Canberra and the War Memorial, and I'm seeing all the sculptures and art of soldiers. And then over time, sorry, this is a bit of a story, but it's a cool story, really. Haven't told it before. Over time, they actually started to commission artists to go into combat, right, to document through painting, drawing, and whatnot. So a lot of the museums around the world have these, beautiful and often tormenting artworks that were, commissioned to document that sort of experience of the human. I've always been fascinated by combat and not the fighting. From very young, I looked out into the world and I asked these questions, and I still work on that today. Everything that I do is based around it. Why are people the way they are? Why do we do what we do? How are we causing and creating so much pain in the world? Why? I spent my life answering these questions, studying the human. In anthropology and psychology, I went into the infantry, right? I went in to learn all of this stuff, into law, and used to go into prisons and trauma work and all of that. Why? To answer these questions. But the reason I told you about the artists is because they were capturing people. There was Boyd. There's David Boyd. It was his brother. David Boyd is one of my favorite artists, but his brother, I can't think of his name. He was going into asylums, and there's other ones as well, and just doing these pastel drawings of shell-shocked soldiers. And they call it that because they were like, they're in shock. And, you know, and as we go along, you know, you get the different titles of that: post-traumatic stress, combat stress, all that sort of stuff. And it keeps changing. But what we found over the years is that it's not just combat or veterans that are impacted, and not every veteran is, and not every soldier or you know, or different names for different forces, but not everybody's impacted the same. And I can remember I was in my 20s because I joined the army in when I was I think 23, and I can remember hearing about you know, because I'd have friends coming back from certain conflicts and whatnot, and you know, hearing of different people having different issues, and they're not being much help for them, because in that time they were saying that why people are impacted in the way of, say, post-traumatic stress is because they're basically because of their upbringing, basically because of their how they were encoded, how they were wired, right? So this comes back to attachment and attunement. Now there's other ways of seeing this, but this is what I'm talking about today. So there's a certain percent of us that will, when we are in a certain situation, will develop ongoing issues. Some of us will be stressed or have shock or have a trauma, but we don't have ongoing traumatization necessarily, right? Or impact. And some do. So that also has something to do with how our stress response works, and cortisol in particular, when we're on for long periods of time, and that cortisol is rising to assist the adrenaline to drop, right? And remember, those chemicals, neurochemicals, are what turn off that part of the brain that is bringing our memories together, so that when we hear a firework at New Year's Eve, we don't drop to the ground thinking we're in combat, right? Or a car backfiring, or a helicopter. Every time I hear a helicopter, you know what I think of? So I still have these connections. I think of Vietnam. Now, I wasn't even in Vietnam, but I was born in the 70s. And all my family, 5 generations of combat veterans, and even my sister. So it's in my DNA, right? But speaking of DNA, so we've got on a roll here. Is this interesting? I've got no, oh, okay, here we go. Okay. I'm like, am I just talking to myself? Are you interested? I don't know. All right. But this is some interesting stats. I think, Alex, you might like this. I think you would have loved yesterday. So it's around the percentages, right? So let me think. I got distracted. So the people that, so you may not be traumatized. So I did lose my train of thought. We'll just see if it comes back. You may not be have PTSD, but a huge percentage of us humans have attachment some form of a attachment difficulty, right? So there's 15%, last I looked, could be changed, you know, could be different research, but the last research that I looked at, which was only a few days ago, was 15% have disorganized attachment. That's a type of attachment style, which is in a nutshell based on when the primary caregiver, so your mum or your dad or whoever looked after you, but you know, it's usually a parent, but you know, there's other people too that look after children, foster parents and whatnot. So that 15% had experiences that they were terrified, and they went to turn to the primary caregiver for soothing and co-regulation. So a child, an infant, cannot regulate themselves. They need to be taught. And so the parents or primary caregivers are the ones that co-regulate, help the child to regulate the nervous system. Now, if the parent, that primary caregiver, is the one that's creating the terror. Now, terror could be, for a little child, that mum or dad is drunk and yelling, or, you know, so they fell and hurt themselves, but they can't go to mum or dad because of the anger, or the, you know, the behavior is terrifying. Or you know, place terror, whatever you know, there's different types of terrifying experiences, right? I don't want to go right into that, but it's not necessarily sexual abuse, although those that have been sexually abused or physically abused generally have this disorganized. And the correlation here, so this is a bit of a hypothesis, but just to show you, disorganized attachment and PTSD, the stats are the same, the 15%. So around 15% of the population have PTSD, and about 15% have disorganized or dysregulated, disorganized attachment, which means it's really difficult to have relationships. It's really difficult to keep from going into chaotic thoughts and emotions, you know, and all the rest of it. So that's the extreme. That's the extreme, right? But we have that's the extreme, but we have other types of you know, there's anxious attachment. So if your parent, your primary caregiver, wasn't able to handle your stress. So when you went to your parent, they were stressed, or like I said at the beginning, the father feeding the infant was stressed. So the child, when it needs support, is going to somebody who is, sometimes they're okay and sometimes they're not. There's different types of attachment, but they all impact us in our relationships later on, except for the secure attachment, which I guess is a positive impact, right? So what are we doing in the Relevate program? We're looking at where you are on all of that, in that, right, through experience, through how you experience it in the body. Okay. Are there any questions on that? You're all good? Because I'm going to start shifting into the question that somebody asked me this morning, which is pretty awesome, and links to another program which is called Intuitive Studies. But the two link, because when I was, I had stopped to touch in and contact the students' pain, emotional pain, other people were feeling what was going on. And this lady in particular wrote to me and said, you know, I felt that, and it was a little difficult for her. And she did what she was taught and it moved through, but she wondered what was going on. So I'm going to tell you some of what was going on, because many of you are sensitives in some way and you feel others' pain, right? So that was that story of, like, being able to query or inquire into another's pain and suffering and not take it on yourself. So I've sort of been doing that all my life, right? Inquiring about the human condition. And there were times when I did take it on for myself, and it did impact my health. And that's how I know what to do and what not to do. Okay. As a professional in, working with traumatized humans and animals. In fact, I worked with a lot of animals too, primarily humans. So we have somebody on a Zoom that is feeling the impact. So put in the chats if you've got any other questions. That's feeling the other person's pain and suffering. And what I was saying earlier is that you feel it come in, and when you know where your energy and your physical system is, it will just move on. So on any level, whether it's a physical, like you're sitting in front of somebody and they're telling their story and it brings up your stuff, right? If you're stirred in any way, it's in you as well. Good question. That's what I'm getting to, Alexa. She's saying, how do you not take on someone else's pain? It's not, so in the beginning, because you might have missed this, I was saying it's not about not feeling. If you're wanting to not feel anything, you're not human, you're not alive, you're not here on the planet, right? There's a reciprocity, a giving and a taking, and there's a sharing. And when you're really intimate with somebody, you will feel the information, or what I'm sharing now, is that you don't have to hold it. So as I'm talking to you, I've got 2 phones going in my computer and I'm streaming to all these different places. I can feel your energy. I can feel what's going on, but I'm not attached to it. It's not triggering in me. This is why we need to work on our charge in our bodies. So when you come across somebody who's had a similar, it might not be a similar experience. It might be like sadness or sorrow, and you've experienced sadness or sorrow. If you haven't, discharged, I'm just going to use it that way, that voltage, when you are intimate emotionally or supporting or holding that container with somebody else, yours is triggered too. It becomes the same pain, right? And that's why you're like feeling deeply. You literally are feeling it, okay? So the first step is to discharge your own charge, right? And that's why I'm sharing, and I shared for the last 2 days, really simple ways of doing it. But it's uncomfortable to some degree because you have to touch into what's going on for you. And sometimes it's not real pretty. It's like when you've got to put, if you've ever had a graze, you graze the skin off your knee, or, you've fallen over or whatever, and they're going to clean it. It hurts. I've still got tar in my knee from when I was like 9 years old, when I fell off my bike coming speeding down the hill. And I didn't clean it properly, right? There was no adults around, right? So there's still a bit of tar in my knee. I can see it. There's one little black dot, like, oh, yeah, right? We got to clean it so that it can repair well, stop infection. It's similar. sort of a metaphor, right? We touch in, we drop in. How is our body? Why do you think I start everything with how are you? Doing, being, are-ing. It's a higher state of consciousness. How are you in this space and time at this moment? How's your physical, your organs, your muscles, your bones, like how, you know, your energy, how do you feel? How do you feel? And then your emotions. Okay, this is maybe some emotions, some mental chatter and whatnot. Then your energy. All of that is part of the human. So if we're saying, oh, we're only doing energetic work or we're only doing physical work, to me, everything is energy, but we've got to merge it all together. So you're working with the whole human, right? So we can discharge it energetically, and we can discharge it physically. But when you do the both, oh, it's so much more profound. So I'm going to read that. I'm going to get to the chat in a minute. I can see some comments coming up. So Alexa, it's not about not feeling. Although when you have discharged that for yourself to a degree, right? It's not being complete. You don't, to do the sort of work we do, we don't have to be completely healed of everything, but we need to be healed enough so that when we touch someone else's pain, we're not making decisions, right? This was key when I was a social worker, when I worked with, I was a complex trauma specialist, right? So I'd work in the field with children and my heart would just die for them, right? It hurt so much. And if ever I made a decision on that pain, like it was like a big no-no, I was very clear. We do not make decisions based on our emotions. Our emotions are fleeting like the wind, like the clouds. Our emotions aren't our truth. So if I'm making a decision like for somebody else's life based on how I feel, man, I'm setting them up for a rough life, right? I learned that early in my career because I am quite emotional. I am an empath. I feel everything. If I'm making my decisions based on how I feel, I would not do anything, right? It's about being conscious, experiencing it, acknowledge it, identify it, let it go. And they're just words. You have to do it. And that's what we teach in the Relevate program. So I've put the link in the chat for all the programs. There's some others, the ISP as well. Now, ISP Intuitive Studies takes you into how to, so with Alexa's question about how do you not feel it, it's more the question, I would say, but let me know if this is true for you, how not to hold it, how not to take it on. We don't ever want to, well, I don't ever want to not feel and experience all that I can in the world. When we do our spiritual development, we actually feel more. We expand our container to actually feel more, to experience more in all our sensory systems. We turn on our dormant sensory system, which means how we can fully really experience stuff. Now, the point that I want you to hear is I also teach you how to not hold it and it not become yours. Because what happens is you feel fear and then you get scared of the fear. So it's not the fear itself that's the problem. I'm sitting in the fear right now because I can feel a lot of you in my body. I can feel it. It's no big deal. In fact, it's like, cool, we're connected. I'm part of the human race. This is what it's about. Really being intimate with people and feeling them in your body, but not walking the rest of your life as them, not taking on that as a victim. It's empowering. We used to do calls called empowerment, energy medicine power mentoring, right? Because it was about giving you the power back. You do not have to take it on. A lot of you, and I'm just gonna be the tough love mum right now, or auntie or grandma, whatever, for you. A lot of you get, it's like, and it is part of the drama, right? Because when we get these charges discharged, it's almost like, oh, what now? That's gone. There'll be something else, so don't worry. There's always something. Life is that. But when if the drama stops, some of you are coded for that drama. And when the drama stops, you're at a loss. So just see that for yourself. Are you being that victim, right? Are you blaming other people? Wherever you blame other people, that's the victim. Oh, such and such did this, or, oh, I'm like this because of that, or whatever. No. How you direct your life, what you cause and create in your world. Become the power in your world, in your life. Stop giving it away to other people, right? Be the leader in your world, meaning your system, your body, okay? So your earthing, your grounding is really important. How you're connected to your central core, right? How you know as you expand through the practices, and it's a lot of it, I've been sharing stuff for years, but if you want to go deeper, then you do the programs and you building. I can't get you to build on a live because I can't see you and you're not always feeding back to me. I need to know where you're at so I can take you to the next piece and the next piece for you specifically, even in a group. And you saw some of that on the challenges, right? But even on the challenges, I can only take you so far because I may not ever see you again. I need to know how certain things sit with you so that we can refine. Okay, this worked for you this way. Now it's this, and now it's that, right? You're individuals. It's not a blanket magic wand. You all have your own energetic makeup and your own beliefs and conditioned patterns. Now, there are a handful of those, and out of all of those, we can work out where you're at. But it's about you experiencing yourself and then building that relationship with yourself, whether you're on a health journey, and if you are, it would be more elevate, although we do go into the energetics as well, the energetic nervous system and the physiological nervous system, and how that is in your body and what needs to be discharged there and why, and get the messages for you. If you want to go fuller into your spiritual development, it's the intuitive studies, or ISP, right? They're both 6 months to start with, right? They're usually 12 months, but I'm doing 6 months to allow you to have a good solid experience of that, where you will come out of that 6 months, because you learn really quick. Why we do longer is to really get the confidence and the repatterning, okay? And this is why some of you have success and then you go back, because you don't have the repatterning, right? So, you learn something or your body does something and there's a little bit more, but you think you're done. So you just move on and it just keeps happening. It builds again. I call it with alignment. It's like when you align the energy. So if somebody's been like this, for instance, and you align the energy, which is really simple to do. But if the rest of their energy, if they've been like this for 30 years and you align them, they want to go back to that. Everything in their system wants to go back to that. So it's about checking in and just doing the refinement. So every time they start to go like that, you're just refining it until they're solid, right? And generally with those alignments, it's only around 3 sessions. Sometimes it's only 2. The point is, you can't think it away. You can't will it away. With your 1% free will, most of you, that 1% is conditioned anyway. So you only have free will that's in the package of beliefs and conditionings that you know. That's not free will, in my opinion, right? True free will is when you have the capacity to access all the information and then, right? But while you have fear there that you're scared of, you can't move forward. And it could be a fear of love. So some of you have a fear of love. So the fear is there, but it's towards love. So the relationship stuff or how magnificent you are, or that you can start your business or start a new job or start a new relationship. And as you start to move towards that, or, you feel it and you start to sabotage yourself in either the way you are, the behavior, how you think, how you speak to other people, whether you get up when the alarm goes off, all of these I could go on and on and on. What is it that's stopping you? It's not your willpower. It's not your willpower. It's got nothing to do with willpower. You can't willpower this away. I'm sorry. I'm just telling it like it is. I'm not here to placate people. I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. I'm here to serve you, right? So how long have I been going? About an hour. I was going to do 20 minutes. Can you believe it? I went on a roll. Let me see. There were some other questions. Okay, so we've got husband, Vietnam vet, PTSD, love to tap when I feel the energy merge. Yeah, but that's not discharging it. Okay, I can teach you energy first aid and tapping and stuff like that. It's not discharging it. What it is it's yesterday I said, and this is something that I'm really looking at this year even deeper. What's the difference between self-soothing and bypassing the information? I'm not going to give you the answer. I just want you to contemplate that. If your pain or your information comes up and you make it go away by taking some deep breaths or tapping it or holding a meridian or, I don't know, talking it or whatever it is, it goes away. Does it come back? If it's coming back, the charge is still there. I teach all that stuff. I call it first aid. I'm here to give you the surgeon's scalpel. Although we don't generally do surgery on ourselves, right? So I would be the surgeon. You would come to me for one-to-ones, right? To do that real deep where we have to, go deep. And the human has not the capacity to do that on their own because they can't hold the fear of the charge, right? That charge enough on their own because all their stuff comes and tries to keep them in homeostasis. But it's incorrect because where they are isn't homeostasis. And by touching into that sense of fear, the other side of that is your homeostasis. is your healing, is the light. It's the light, it's the brightest light, which is actually dark. Dark plasma shines brighter than the whitest light. And that's why in the spiritual practices, all the great ones shone, but showed themselves. That's not good grammar, but you know what I mean. Through dark light. Even God to Moses was through the dark light. The Black Madonna through the dark light. The angelics are bright because they've got the black plasma around them. It's more light in the darkness. Do not be afraid of the dark. And when you're not afraid of the dark, which is your fear, you don't spiral into the shadow of the dark, which is your pain and suffering, because you're pushing away from what you need to work with and be intimate with. If you want love, you must have fear. They work together on a higher spiritual level, right? They merge together. That's the yin yang, right? I'm going to show you this because it links to the grounding. I sound like I'm Corporal Harrison today, but no, she was even tougher. But, but you know, I'm serious about this. I want the best for you. I want you to have a life that you can be, do, into, anything, right? So you can see here. So we have, let's see how I can draw this. Something like that, right? Yin yang, or love, fear. And we could go, you know, one's red, one's blue. We'll just make this one the red one. Father and the mother, love and fear, positive, negative. But how many of you know about the neutral? How many know there's a neutral aspect? Positive, negative, neutral. And we have, you know, the father and the mother, and within that, they exist. You know, you can't have one without the other. That's what I'm saying. When we get shocked or traumatized or have like a lot of stress, these move away from each other, right? Why is that important? So that would move out to here, and that will move out to here. Oh, out to here, right? They move away from each other. There's separation. It's closer to death. I'm speaking it now, right? I'm speaking it. So when our experience on earth is polarized, the two together, when we have shock, terror, trauma, a lot of stress, not positive stress, right? We separate. What stitches the polarity together? Listen up. What stitches that polarity together is the neutral aspect of us. Now, that neutral aspect of us, when we die, and this is an energetic sort of understanding of death in a way, simplicity, right? The simple version of it. When we die, these parts go back to the earth. They're from the earth. They go back to the earth, right? Here she is. Beautiful earth, right? The neutral goes back to the father. The polarity goes back to the mother, right? This aspect that holds the polarity together is our immortal self. what lives in the body. So we have this neutral sort of essence of who we are. And when we die, that goes on. And the shell falls back to earth, dust to dust, right? This is what I'm telling you about and what we work with. It's like there's a charge, and when there's a charge in the body, it creates separation. It creates irregularities in the energies. It creates a lack of flow or too much flow. Too much flow is usually pain. Not enough is you'll often I feel it as cold, and I feel too much as heat when I touch your body or I tap into the body, right? So this is the sort of stuff you'll learn in intuitive studies, so that you can then connect with all the aspects of self, right? All the aspects of self. When we do so some of you that might be watching from yesterday, I taught you at the end of day one, the earthing. It's got to do with this, right? So when we're stressed, let me draw another picture. When we're stressed, meaning we have fear and we're not meeting it, we're fighting it. Our little body starts to flip its polarity. It's positive, negative, right? So negative on the feet, right? We're like magnets, and we flip the polarity on the feet. So maybe it's positive on the feet and it flips to negative, right? And just say the earth is positive. No, just say the earth is negative. And then we have negative and negative. When you put the same pole of a magnet together, it repels, okay? So that means that there's a repelling, just like the yin yang, a separation. And that separation, the longer it goes on, you're getting closer to death. Illness, inflammation, lacking any real vibe with life, all of that, it's separation. You're getting closer to the going back to, the ashes, the dust. So when we flip our hands on the bottom of our feet 3 or 4 times each foot, simple. If you have an irregularity in those points on the bottom of the feet, right, we can test it, but you don't need to. You can just do it. It won't hurt you if you don't need it. But if you need it, usually you'll have a lot of inflammation in your, there'll be aches and pains and inflammation in your legs. You may get sort of spacey in the head, those sorts of things. There's lots of different symptoms, but just try it. Just try it. The other one is that you can spoon your feet. So you can just get a stainless steel spoon. I taught you this yesterday or the day before. It sounds bizarre, but energetically, what the stainless steel does, it has to be stainless steel. There are some other metals, but a magnet has to be able to stick to it, right? So we're rubbing the feet. So I would rub the feet with the spoon or the stainless steel object. This is a little measuring cup that I keep at my desk. That does something a little different. What that's doing is, this is a little bit more complex, but in some ways, because it's about the pole of the earth and the flipping of the pole of the earth, like the energy of, is she going to completely flip? We've been talking about this for the last probably 10, 12 years. What's happening with the earth's pole? It's moving, but energetically it's doing this. What am I going to do? So while she's doing this, north, south, north, south, north, south, north, south, right? And just say you're south and she's doing this, there's this crazy separation happening, right? And you'll feel it. If you spoon your feet, how that impacts the skin, and the skin is one of the large organs that also impacts the nervous system. So spooning the feet will give you a connection no matter what the earth is doing in her flipping, right? Does it make sense or not? I teach this all the time, but it seems to come out of my mouth differently all the time, right? Because it's like, you know, I get a chance to teach you a bit more. So spoon your feet and then flip them with your hand like a magnet, because your hand is like a magnet. You can move energy. It's north and south, right? Your feet, north and south. The earth is north and south. So when we have magnets, I did grab my magnets. I'm going to give you a little demo. I do this all the time, but maybe you haven't seen it. I need to get this through to you, because if you are feeling too much of somebody else's stuff, you're not earthed well, electrically earthed well. And there's more advanced information to this, which you'll learn in the programs, right? But this is what you could do for now. It will shift. Like if that's all you did, it will, you know, especially if you've got, you know, health issues or, you know, emotional stuff. Because when you're earthed like that, the earth's field starts to help you with your healing, starts to work with you. When you're not connected in that way, you are hovering above the earth. You're not connected at all. You're just in your own little space, like hovering, right? And your feet are up here. And you're in your own field. And that field, and you may feel it sometimes when you practice connecting into your own body, it sort of feels electrified at times, right? When we connect with the earth's field, she helps, she assists with that. And we don't have that electrical charge around our field, which creates all sorts of problems, all sorts of, you know, so if you're finding it difficult to heal, just try that. So I could go on and on. I could spend like weeks just teaching that, but look, 2 magnets, right? So I mark my magnets with, so the north has a little diamante on it, right? So we've got these 2 have the little diamantes on them, right? So when they come together, it's the opposite, right? North and south come together. When we put the same, so I'll put the 2 diamantes together, so it's north, north, right? It's like there's a pressure. I can't get them to go together, right? That's what it feels like. Like you can feel that when you learn about energy, you can start to feel it. You may be even able to feel it in your field. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. I don't know. But see, that's north-south, right? We'll do north-south. And I barely have to do anything. They just want to go together. Look. But right? So it's the same. We're talking about the poles, polarity. And on this earth, in this incarnation, it's all about polarity. Until there's so much separation that those positive and negative goes back into the earth, and the neutral goes back to be all that we are. So it's love and it's fear. And we have the the fear itself or the love itself it just is. But when we fear the love and we fear the fear, that's our suffering. That's our challenge. And that's what these programs will share with you and help you navigate and work with. I'm just checking the chat. Grounding. I've learned this from you, spinning the feet. Yeah. So are there any questions about that? So going back, if you have questions, you can ask them. But going back to the question that one of the ladies asked this morning in her email to me was about how she can not feel. And Alexa sort of mentioned it too. How can we not feel? It's not about not feeling. It's actually about feeling. The difficulty, or what I think is behind those questions, is how do we stop continually feeling somebody else's pain? So we can, so this is another class, maybe it'll be tomorrow, I don't know, I'll write down some things that are coming to me. It's not that we have to feel it, it's that until you really understand what's going on in your systems, right, then you don't have refinement in how you work, right, how you are in the world. And so as you understand, and I give you parts of your operating system book, right, because you didn't come with a manual, I'm giving you aspects of the manual for the human and the human condition, then you can start to look at what you need, flick through the pages, so to speak, of, oh, this is going on in my life. Oh, okay. What's my earthing? What's my grounding? What's my field like? Because other thing for this that I taught in the challenge, but it might make more sense now, is that when you're not connected to the earth, your aura comes really, or your field comes really close to the body. And it doesn't filtrate information very well, either in or out. And so there's almost like a stop. So whatever's in you stays, but can't leave or can't come in, right? And like in the cell, for glucose, that's diabetes. So all of this it goes right down to the cellular level. It's the same mechanisms, very similar mechanisms in the positive, negative, neutral charge, right? Energetically right down to your cellular level, what the cells do and why they don't function in a way, or they function too much in another way, right? Again, too much information too fast, or not enough information slow. It's on every level, if you just remember that, right? So I did say in the challenge that I see that when we're going on airplanes, people's fields get very close, like within like half an inch around their body. And it can be because they've left the earth, but also, the radiation and the shift in magnetics, but also because we're sitting really close to people and we tend to just automatically pull our field in, right? I'm about how we can, it's polarity. Yeah. Alexa's saying, can the cellular level be reversed? Yeah. So the polarity of so I'll contemplate what we'll go into tomorrow and the next day, but it may be some of these questions, because I don't have time to do that piece today, right? But if we're shifting the polarity, we're also with energy and all the different modalities that are around conscious evolution, or the spiritual emergence, or so how we read aura, or how we read, it's not really reading, it's interpreting and translating the information that you get. So it might be you want to know what the, how to see the aura, or how to, you don't necessarily, I know a lot of excellent energy medicine practitioners that don't see energy, but they get their information in other ways. And you can, regardless of whether you can see it or not, you can still work with it. There's other ways of knowing. So everybody wants to see, but that was the last Claire for me to come on. My strongest is my knowing. I just know information, and feeling. So if I talk to somebody, that's why I was a medical intuitive for a while, because someone would talk to me and I'd feel what was going on for them in my own body. And then I would ask questions about that, of spirit and the person, right? And so I'd know, oh, okay, what's actually going on for them, rather than maybe, what somebody's guessed or whatnot. So intuitive studies is the one for that. If you want to learn about how to read and understand and translate energy. For me, it's about the translation, because you're surrounded by energy constantly, right? But you don't know the language of it. You don't know how to understand or like where it's coming from, and therefore what guidance or what it might be trying to show you. And a lot of people guess that. And to me, I don't guess when it comes to, but it's like using your emotion. Don't make decisions on your emotion. If you don't know, and this is, I'm very clear on this when I'm teaching mediums and in trance channeling and whatnot, you don't guess the information. If you don't know, you say you don't know. Or most of the time I would be saying, go back and ask. If you're not clear, ask for clarity. And I teach you how to ask for clarity. I teach you how to get the evidence. It's not just like, oh, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that. Yeah, and right? It's like, okay, I'm feeling this, do I need to know more about this? Show me or tell me more, right? It's like, I'm the director. I'm like Corporal Harrison in the spirit world. I'm like, okay, you work for me. They work for me. I am the director of this vehicle. And there are aspects of me that inform the higher intelligence, right? We work together. It's not an arrogance. It's a directorship. Somebody's got to be the captain of the ship, right? And if I'm embodied in this body, then I guess it's me. And for you, it's you. So why are you not taking charge of your vessel, your vehicle, your ship, whatever you want to call it? And you're letting it float around in the atmosphere, no direction, like a hot air balloon that's, lost its tether and off it goes. We need to be able to, that's what I say about flow. I don't want to be in flow. And I'm going to suggest to you that you don't either, but you make your own choices. When you're in flow, if you're in a boat going down the river, and I say this a lot, so some of you have heard this. When you're going down the river, make sure you've got either oars or a motor on your boat. Don't just float aimlessly. Well, you can if you choose to, right? You can if you choose to. I will never tell you what to do. I'll suggest. I'm saying from my experience and working with thousands of people, that when you go with the flow, like if you've got a direction and a plan, then you can flow, but you have oars or the motor to steer when you're coming against a log, or you're coming against a you're coming up to the waterfall, right? Or whatever it is. You can You can choose to go over, you could choose to hit it, or you could choose to knock it with the oar so it doesn't put a hole in your boat, right? Have some directorship in your life. What are you responsible for? You're responsible for this vehicle, for this vessel, for your experience, that how the soul experiences in this incarnation. There's responsibility there. Are we ready? Are you ready to take responsibility for your life? It's no one else's. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to you now. It's up to you now. So I'm saying I'm showing up. I'm here to support you, to guide you, to mentor you if you would like that. I'll continue. I'll do some more lives until Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've got a program, so I can't do that. And then maybe a little bit next week, and then I'm off again. And then in February, we start the program. We start Relevate and we start Intuitive Studies. Now, before we go, I'm going to do, and there are some questions. I will go back over the questions. Clearing etheric cords too. Yes, I teach. Look, I teach you about energy and spirit and the different levels of spirit. And once you really understand what you're working with, all of these ways of talking, right, about it's really your fear. And once you have a relationship with fear, you won't be talking about what's out to get you, different energies, psychic attack, all of that sort of stuff. You just won't, because you'll understand what you're working with. You will be in full directorship of your life. I'm telling you, I have none of that going on because I stay relating to fear and love. And that's it. When it comes up, I feel it, I experience it, I have an intimate relationship with it, it washes over me, it moves on. Okay? It's when you meet it, you get scared of it, it gets stuck, and there's charge, and it stays with you for the rest of your life. And then another one comes, another one comes, another one comes, another one comes, and you're full of all these charge. Okay? So I've talked about numerous things on this call, and so I am hoping, well, I leave it to you to tell me what you don't understand, okay? It's a conversation, you know. I always say, I already know this stuff, so I'm not, you know, I don't want to talk to myself. I want to talk to you and see, like, how this sits with you, what comes up for you, what else might you want to know about that? Is it clear enough? But ultimately, to really know it and go deep, come into one of the programs. Like, they're really low cost. Like, we've got one at 60% off and one at 50% off, right? So if you are on the challenge, grab that. So that makes, I think it makes the Relevate program for 6 months, like just over $400. So that's like having, you know, somebody to walk with you, almost like deep. It's not necessarily therapy, but it's the closest I can do in a group for discharging somatically. And it's not TRE, right? TRE will work for some, but there's other things that need to come up. It might be the shaking or the discharge through the body. In that way, it may be that you need the emotions to come up, and I've noticed a lot of people have that. The emotions come up when they start to feel it, they self-soothe. And I've noticed on a lot of calls, because I've done a lot of free calls lately, that when they touch into their emotions, they've done so much work already that they're very good at regulating. And I'm saying, don't regulate. I mean, regulate when you're not with me, but when you're with me, don't regulate. Go there. I will regulate. I will co-regulate with you so that you can go deeper and not be scared to, right? So that you can get to the real juicy stuff. right? And it's through the system. You don't have to tell me the story necessarily. Can if you want. It's the discharging that emotion, that charge through the body, right? But there's different ways, and you will be individual. Not everybody. So I've talked to people, they come on, they say, yeah, they do TRE. Awesome. But they've still got these charges in them. So that's not what those particular charges need to discharge. Telling you, we got to find what works for you. This is opportunity. So anyway, Relevate. You know, I welcome you to come on that journey. Intuitive Studies is, there's a code for 50% off. Starts in February as well. And basically it's a lot of this stuff, and learning about the different levels of spirit, how that information comes through, how you get that information, practicing that. You get the Spirit Whisperer Development Circle, which is practicing with other people as well, right? So what else do you get with that? Nearly forgot. So I'm going to end with this. If you go into Intuitive Studies program, you get the Regulate to Elevate, right? The discharging one for free. I put it as a bonus. It's part of it, because what I've learned, the last 3 years I've been teaching Intuitive Studies, and we used to run 2 programs at a time. So it was like staggered. So I had a lot of people going through that program. And what I found was their trauma always comes up. Always. And what I worked into the program, because I could, was how to navigate that with them, how they could, when they're tuning into themselves, how they can feel certain experiences and move it through, right? So when they get to connecting with spirit on different levels, they're clearer in their body, and their information isn't corrupted by their emotions and their past experience. Get me? So many people who do readings and whatnot are corrupted by their own stuff. Are you a clear conduit, or are you telling and looking at the information from spirit through your trauma lens? Because that's what I saw. And that's why I brought this work back in. And there's part of me that didn't want to. I've done 30 odd years, 28 years trauma work, right? Formal. My practice. I didn't want to go back to that necessarily. And I was shown through all of you wonderful people that you need it in this way. This is the way we could do it. And it's amalgamating the levels of conscious evolution. The fear is the relevate. The love is going into the ISP, the spirit. We've got the earth aspect, which is the body, the incarnation, and then we have the spirit aspect, or the soul to spirit aspect. We do have higher programs. I'm not selling, those at the moment. They're not open, which is called Psi, and that's a 10-month program, but we're still running that, and I only run one a year, and we're only in the 6 months of that. So that's more advanced again. But that won't be available for a while. And you can also work with me one-to-one if you wanted to do that. There is the third option. So if you click that link, I did, let me see, did I put that link in there? I'm just going to post the links again. You can go and have a look. So you should be able to see it on the Zoom. Have a look. Oops. Have a look, and there is a link for a 15-minute inquiry call. So if you've got a question about the programs, any of the programs, or if you want to work with me one-to-one, book a call. I've got the next 3 days open. within reason, because we do Psi every Tuesday afternoon, but which is that other program. Or come here tomorrow and ask your questions, or find out, what else? Fear's going to come up, right? Fear's going to come up. It's like, oh, there's some money down. I don't know if this is going to work for me. I don't know if the times will suit. So I don't know if Alexa's still watching. I've got 2 time zones. So one of those classes is going to suit you. So I've got a morning one and an afternoon one. So all my European friends are catered for, and all the sort of Americas are catered for, Australia and all the rest of it. So there'll be a time that you can go, and there are recordings when you can't show up, because maybe you can't show up to everything, but so just give me a moment. I'm just posting the links in the Facebook. Did that work? There we go. That worked. All right. So are there any questions? So there's two links there. One's to see all the programs, and you'll see 3. One's Relevate, which is the one I'm offering the 60% off. So, but it's only for this week. With that, there's a code. It's REL60. And then there's ISP, which is 50% off. And that is ISP 50. And you get the bonuses, right? And then the third one is Revelation, which is one-to-one work with me, but you get all of the programs as well. So you can have a look at that. And if you've got any other questions, if you just want to work with me and not do the programs, then contact me and we can work that out for you. I take limited one-to-ones. So if you want one, connect with me ASAP so we can get you in for doing that. All right. Sorry about that. I just had to put the links in because the restream isn't showing up well. So no other questions? All good? All good? All good? You're right. Well, I'll let you get on with your evening or your day. It's morning here. But I had the morning free because we had the challenge and everything. And I was like, I'm just going to pop in and answer the questions. So the lady that asked me that question, if I didn't answer it well enough, ask me again, and I can come back tomorrow. But basically, if you're connected with the self, you have a good central core, and you're earthed, and your energy is flowing well, and you feel something, all you have to do is go, I'm feeling something. Okay, thanks for showing me. And literally, it'll move on. You don't need to. You can place it in if you want to feel. I do. I want to feel. That's how I do my work. I feel what's going on. I can get it other ways too, but that's just how I like it. I like to feel all the information and experience all the information. But I can say, I only want to feel it for 30 seconds. And generally, if I feel it for more than 30 seconds, it's that there's something else that needs to be recognized. So if I'm working with somebody and I feel what's going on and it moves through and then it comes back, I'll be like, oh, okay, what else is going on? Show me in another way. So I might see it or hear it, or, it'll come to me in another way. And then it'll move through again. If I'm still not getting the full translation of it, it will come in again. I'll be like, all right, show me. I'm in directorship. If I don't want to, if I'm not working with somebody, if I don't want to feel anything, there are what you've got to build your container. You've got to build your container and work on your own stuff. It's as simple as that. Not be afraid of it. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be afraid of. If you're a practitioner, that's another thing. So maybe we'll go into that too. I'll make a few notes of some of the things that we could talk about. Because if you're a practitioner, if you're working with other people all the time and you feel like you're taking on a lot of their stuff, there are ways, particular ways that I guess I work a little differently in clinic time. So I'll bring that in through the week. All right, on that note, if there are no questions, other questions. So just remember there's a link there for a 15-minute call, 15, 20 minutes. If you've got a question about any of the programs, or you're really drawn to it, but you don't know how you can do it, or you can pay it off. So there's the price there when you click on it. So the prices will be, they won't be the percentage off, right? So don't freak out. They still are lower. You end up saving about $4,000 all up if you do the ISP. I worked it out last night, right? Click on it, go through, work out which one you're interested in. Then you click on the buy now and it'll come up with payment option or pay in full. Then you put your code in the one that you want and it'll take the 60 or 50% off. And then it goes to the cart, okay? Just to be clear, because some people might think, oh, that's not it. So less than half. Like I want to get this Relevate program out there. If you don't do anything else, do that, right? If you're dealing with anything that I've talked about today or over the last few weeks, what do you got to lose? I mean, you know, like 400 and something dollars to at the very least get information on how you work and what's going on for you, right? But I'm telling you, the clearing on that is so simple. It's so simple when you know how, right? So you know, but if you want the spiritual development, go into the ISP and you get a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's not recorded, it's not pre-recorded, it's me live so that I can mentor you, right? Oh, okay. No worries. Well, you can go back and listen to the recording if you had problems with that. And oh, it's frozen, that's why. Yeah, one of them's frozen. Interesting. Anyway, it'll be on the recording. And for those of you, I'm going to send out the recording from yesterday again. Some of you told me that you had problems with the link, but some people didn't. So I'm not sure what's going on there. It might be the phone or the computer that you're clicking from, but I'll resend it and give you more time to have a look at yesterday's call from the challenge. And on that note, keep regulating. May the blessings be. Much love. We'll see some of you tomorrow, maybe. Same time, same bat channel. Much love.